Well, Paul, appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, stoked to be here.
You're in, as you just mentioned, you're in Dominican, Costa Rica.
Dominican, Costa Rica, man. This is the spot.
How
I
long
love it.
have
Actually,
you?
no, it's not the spot. The spot sucks.
Yeah,
Nobody come here.
Costa Rica's ass, not
it's
fun.
no, there's never sun. It's just pure rain. Horrible people. No
Yep.
pura vida.
Yeah, acachete. Do you say that?
A cachete way. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Actually, you don't say way. You say my down here.
Acachete mai?
My. Yeah, my is like dude. In Mexico, way is dude.
Do they say acachete in Mexico too?
I forget if a cachete is Mexico or Costa Rica now.
I said it when I went to Costa Rica, but I'm about
Yeah,
as white as they come, so I don't know.
I could tell.
Yeah,
Gringolandia.
yeah, exactly. Well, I'm curious. Did you like what drew you to Costa Rica? Why down there?
Costa Rica kept me here. So, yeah, man, I went off on a mission a few years ago. Mid COVID, I was a little bit bored. And I had always gone, surfing is always just number one. I've pretty much prioritized surfing in my life. Like, if I was a billionaire, what would I do every day? Go surf. So, where would I
Hmm.
go? Place where there's warm water and cool people. So, Costa Rica. But, yeah, a couple of years ago, I just made a GoFundMe, packed up my old 1985 Nissan truck, and went on a mission. It was mid COVID, and I delivered a bunch of baseball gear. So that's what the GoFundMe was for. Got a bunch of baseball gear for people in Nicaragua because baseball is their number one sport. I've spent maybe a month and a half, 2 months of my life down there, and just kind of have a big heart for Nicaragua. And the waves are epic down there, and the people are rad. And so my mission was to get baseball gear down there, and I did. I just played Santa Claus and delivered gear to people in Nicaragua, like on the side of the road. Like literally one night, I spent the night on the side of the road because I saw these kids playing baseball, playing catch with a freaking orange. So I show up and give them like a bat, gloves, balls, and it was amazing.
Yeah, man,
And
that's incredible.
yeah, no, I heard you played baseball too, so we got some.
Yeah, did you play ball like in high school and or college or anything?
Yeah, yeah, I played in college, a little Vanguard University.
Very cool. Where is that?
That's in Orange County, Costa
Oh, is that where
Mesa,
you're
Newport
from?
Beach. I'm from Oceanside, San Diego.
Cool, man. What position? I'm gonna guess. I saw a video of you swinging. I'm gonna guess you're outfielder or shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, I try to play shortstop, but I got the yips.
Yep,
You ever
those are
had the
real,
yips?
dude.
You're a pitcher, right?
I was a pitcher, and I tell people, I talk to people about this a lot about yips because it's like a phenomenon. It doesn't make sense,
Dude,
but it happens.
it makes no sense, man. I can literally not play catch sometimes. Still.
The mind is a great dude. The brain body connection is a wild thing.
Yeah, like I can make the most athletic play, like maybe 100% of the time, make the basic play, just throw it away, sail every time. So I tried to play shortstop my freshman and sophomore year, but eventually finally went back home in center and started switch hitting too as a junior. Just first time in my life was like, man, I'm sitting the bench. I want to have some fun and just hit lefty as well. And next thing you know, I couldn't stop hitting.
There you go, dude.
It was awesome.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good experiment. I would say switching is. I switch it for when I was like 12, but the travel team I
Yeah.
played for, they made us switch it. It was an
Really?
interesting. Yeah, I guess to try to make you stay athletic or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
um, how was your experience playing college ball? I'm glad
That
we
was
have that in
great.
common. That's it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun for me as well.
It kind of it kind of forms you, right? It also kind of kept me in a bubble. Like, I mean, I was in school and playing baseball. That's what I did. And it's great. It's a great little bubble to be in. And I actually walked on as a sophomore. I was really tiny in high school. I went to a tiny little private school in high school, so I didn't know if I was any good really. Like, so it was really rad to walk on and like earn a spot, and eventually earn a scholarship, and then like get first team all league and do all this stuff. It's really cool. Just like that proof of work to know that I was capable of that, and it was kind of like as far as I needed to go. I was capable of that. But the boys you make along the way, those are friends for life, and definitely teaches you a lot about teamwork and hard work and discipline and all that. So
100%. Did you ever have any like aspirations of playing professional, or were you kind of just like college is cool, just want to have some fun, play some high level baseball?
I mean, yeah, it creeps in the back of your mind. I never really did pursue it as much as I probably could have, but I don't necessarily regret that. Um, but yeah, I'm happy with what I did.
Yeah,
You?
yeah. I mean, for my most of my life, that was my my dream, my ambition was to play pro ball. But I mean, as you just said, I could not have wrapped my baseball career up better, and I'm extremely grateful for the way that it ended, and honestly the time that it ended, because you can maybe relate to this. You can't see much further than you are, if that makes sense. Like, I would have never envisioned even doing what I am now. I thought I was just going to be playing baseball, but in a lot of ways, I think I enjoy what I do now more than I would have enjoyed playing minor league baseball. Um,
Yeah,
and
such a
I'm,
grind.
yeah, dude, it's a lot of people don't understand, but it's cool to hear you say that. Were you always into health, like in the wellness side, or like were you the guy on the team that was like that oddball, always like into health?
No, I mean, definitely an oddball always, but I actually, so the day I got done with grad school, I died. I got this reactive arthritis, is what we're calling it. We don't really know why. I do have this one gene that people are successful. It's called HLA-B27, and people with that are more susceptible to something called ankylosing spondylitis, which is like some sort of an autoimmune disease. So I had this gnarly flare up out of nowhere, like literally the day I got done with grad school. I was going to go take over the world, go surf the world, and move on from school life, whatever that was. But I was forced to be on mom's couch, and luckily I have great parents who took care of me. And I literally lost 20 pounds from what I am now. I was like a stick, couldn't walk, bedridden, straight up for a month, couldn't move, and that forced me down both the health rabbit hole, that got me started there, and the Bitcoin rabbit hole. So those are very deep rabbit holes, and I'm actually very grateful from that time for that time now, because it's really kind of, it's crazy when you're done with school, you get to give yourself your own curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. You actually kind of critically think and make moves on your own. So it started down those two things, and sniffed down that curiosity, and then here I am now, kind of working in both spaces. So
Yeah, that's definitely something I want to get into, because I think there's so many synergies between like the esoteric health space, not even esoteric, but just the alternative, I'll say, because it's not even necessarily esoteric. It's just not the mainstream.
yeah.
Um, and Bitcoin. So I definitely want to get into that. But before we get too far away with it, I'm actually really curious about the mission that you did in Nicaragua with the baseball. Like, how? So you
Yep.
just drove from Cali all the way through Mexico to Nicaragua?
Yep. Meant it, just sent it.
How was that?
It was incredible, man. I mean, it was. I've ran away before, like gone to other countries and stuff, tried to make another life, but nothing really stuck. And going down that, it was, my parents super scared. Everybody was like, "Why are you doing that? You're an idiot. Like you're gonna get stolen or kidnapped or whatever," And I didn't. I had zero problems in Mexico, not even one stop. I mean,
Wow.
I drove an old 1985 truck, so I was like totally blended in. But yeah,
Yeah.
there was one day I even surfed. I left my entire life in my car. I left my door open, and I had a whole session. And I come back, I'm like, well, shit, here we go, and nothing was stolen. So that
There
was
we go.
rad. Really enjoyed my time. It was in October, so like I was timing it. So if there's a swell somewhere, I'd just stay parked there, surf a little bit, and then move on. And there's two side missions. One was go to El Salvador during the first Bitcoin conference. That was right when they made it legal tender. So that was the first time I ended up meeting Bitcoiners in real life, because a lot of people are on the sidelines with these things. I was in the sidelines, kind of just a lurker on Twitter and creating a little bit on Instagram, but I was a huge lurker with the Bitcoin and health space. Um, and then actually getting to meet people in real life, it's just these people, like they understand you way more when you seek them out in real life, and it was really great to start making those connections. So that was side mission number one. Spent 2 weeks in El Salvador, and couldn't even afford a conference ticket, so I just kind of lingered down at the beach and met a bunch of cool people. It was rad. And then side mission number two was to go chase a chick from Costa Rica. I had done a yoga teacher training and fell in love with the yoga teacher, in love, whatever that
Yeah.
means, it was fun. And so I was going to go chase her down. And luckily that also went sideways. But on the way down there, I stopped in Santa Teresa for a Bitcoin meetup, and then went down to her in Hermosa, and then that didn't go well. So I went back to Santa Teresa to another one, and really just made these relationships. Now this is about 3 years ago, that they're still super strong relationships, and have really just made everything concrete, rather from just like this ideological space, like seeing the people in real life. And that's also where I met Saladino and started working for him for a couple of years, and recently stopped working for him, but I'm moved on to some other stuff in the health space.
That's absolutely epic, dude. There's so much
Yeah.
to get into there. That's I went to Guatemala 3 Thanksgivings in a row for a mission trip when I was in high school. So I always had like a since then I had like this affinity for Central America too. Just like the people of Guatemala specifically because I spent time there. Just some of the best people I ever met in my life.
Yeah.
But I find it very fascinating that you kind of just said like full send, gonna drive through Mexico. Were you by yourself too?
By myself, yeah, solo. Tried to get a buddy to go, but nobody sent it with me.
I wonder why. Maybe they didn't want to get kidnapped or something. But
I
that's pretty.
guess.
That's pretty epic, dude. So I'm. This just kind of like what compelled you to do that? Like, have you always been that type of dude that's just like, I'm gonna go take baseball gear to Nicaragua and drive through Mexico? All right, cool, send it. Or like,
Yeah, I mean,
were you
kind
that
of always
bored?
been that guy, but like, I mean, shit got weird in COVID, obviously, and just kind of the hero's journey, right? Like, I knew I needed to do something, man. I didn't have anything really going for me. I had always just worked odd jobs. I'd been doing like commercials and modeling work as well, like in that area, but nothing really started taking off there. And then I had been doing this other just random like contract work job. It's kind of funny. I'd been delivering rented refrigerators to college campuses. So that's kind of how I'd make like a quick clump of money. I'd get all the boys and we'd go deliver fridges all over the place during the summer. And
That's
then
smart.
I'd always like take off and travel. And then this time I was like, all right, I'm going to do this and see what happens. But you kind of mentioned earlier, yeah, like when you're in college, you can't really see that far in the future. And I did have this outside vision, and now I'm really trying to have these visions of what I really want in life, because I did have this strange outside vision of like going to Costa Rica, going down here, finding some company to work with and working remote and like surfing every day. Um, and having that outside, that like far-fetched vision, the rough draft vision, whatever you want to call it, like, and then making it come to pass is amazing. So I'm just constantly like trying to teach myself to dream huge, and like, and it's slowly coming to be. And now I'm engaged, found a much much more rad chick down in Costa
Yeah.
Rica, and yeah, we're getting married in October. So it's cool to see it all happen, and I've got huge plans as well.
Well, congrats on that. That's pretty epic,
Thank you.
in and of itself. But to speak on that, I think that's so true. How it's so funny how that you speak that right now. Like in the last month or so, I've in for lack of a better term, I've gained a mentor that's like very he's already taught me a lot about exactly what you're talking about. Like just like the power of vision, the power of the mind, the power of being intentional with what thoughts you allow to sit in your conscious mind. And the reason I bring that up is it's just very cool. Like you said you had this vision, and now you're sitting here 3 years later. Like it started with you just saying, "Fuck it, I'm going to drive through Mexico to
Yeah.
do this thing," and now you're sitting here. You do incredibly cool stuff, which we'll get into. You're into the Bitcoin community. You fulfilled um, those side missions. You got Nicaraguans baseball gear, which, like you said, they're throwing oranges and hitting rocks, playing with sticks, like in the
So
Dominican,
fun.
and it's incredible. And now you're engaged. Like that's got to be so cool to look back and be like, holy shit, it's panning out.
It's great, man. Yeah, like there's two frames that I like to mention is just really when I was driving down there too to Mexico or through to Costa Rica, I'd been throwing a bunch of books on, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. That was great.
One of my favorite books.
I know I heard you mention that in another one, but one quote just like really stuck in my head, and I'm sure this has been said by a bunch of people, but Breedlove, he's a Bitcoin podcaster. He's like, how would you be living your life if you're a billionaire? Like, what do you actually want? And if you really just sit with that and just really think about like, what would you do with every second of your day, every minute of your day? What would it look like if you're a billionaire? And like right now, I can't, I mean, I'm trying, I can dream big, but like I don't think I'd be spending it too much differently. Like I've got cool friends. I get to surf every morning. I'm working on a family. It's, yeah, how I want to live. And maybe if you do that experiment, you'll notice you don't even want like all those, flashy things. Like that's just quick little hits of happiness, if you want to call it that. But so that really helped. And then the other frame would be like, imagine you're living your life with movie cameras at all times and you're the main character. So I want to live a freaking interesting life and a fun life and have crazy experiences and talk to cool people and meet cool people like you and create. So that's another frame that I like to use.
Dude, that Billionaire one, I Breedlove is awesome. He was actually my first exposure to Bitcoin. It was his podcast on on Tim Billieu's podcast,
Oh, he's
and it was
great.
like,
Yeah, I love them when they rip. They just had a rip recently. They're great.
dude, this is when I was like totally, completely novice in that. Like, I know more about Bitcoin now, but I mean, I was like, this Bitcoin stuff. What the hell are these people talking about? And so,
Yeah,
nonetheless, Robert Breedlove's a G in that way. But that's such an interesting frame. How would you live your life if you were a billionaire? That reminds me of two things. Do you know who Jocko Willink is?
of course.
Okay, so he's like one of my favorite podcasters. He has this podcast. I can't remember which one it is, but he talks about like playing games, how life is a game, and uh, the first step to winning a game is understanding you're in a game, and then you get to choose. Okay, well, what game do I want to play? Like if life's a game and there's sub games, there's like side games within the bigger game of life. I get to choose what games I play, and he used this example, and I think it relates to what you just said. He said, "Who wins the game? If the game is surfing, if that's the game you want to play, surfing and family, let's just say, who wins the game? The family that drives up and down the California coast in a van. The mom homeschools the kids. The dad has a job remote, and they surf every day on all these cool beaches of California. Or the LA executive that has a $20 million house in Malibu that gets to surf for 2 weeks every quarter with his family.
Yeah, no, the
Who
guy
wins the
driving in
game?
the van for sure.
Exactly. If that's
Yeah,
the game you're playing, then that you win. If you're playing the money game, then totally, obviously that guy wins. But um, it's just an interesting framework to think about. It's like, okay, well, what game am I playing? Am I playing the game of being with my family and being able to live this lifestyle, or am I playing the game to make X amount of millions of dollars to be able to do this for a much more condensed period of time? It's just a really powerful way to think about it.
yeah. I mean, and it could change over time, but like part of my North Star as well is it's got to be fun, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
really optimizing for fun. I mean, there's a lot of the bro culture is like, gotta grind, gotta hustle, gotta make money, and that too. Like, I get it, but I mean, I'm sure the money game and playing those games is a lot of fun as well. Like, I want to be fantastically wealthy as well to just be able to be wherever I want to be at any time, all that too. But at what cost? At
yeah.
what cost? So, I mean, if I
The
could play the game harder, the money game harder, but then I wouldn't be surfing. So it's like, what the heck? So maybe I just win and surf every day now.
Yeah, dude, it's obviously not black and white. There's so much nuance to it. But the other
Hmm.
the other thing that just made me think of. Have you heard of the story of like the Mexican fisherman?
No, but maybe hit me with it.
You might have heard it, and I might butcher it a little bit, but it goes something like this: This Mexican fisherman fishes every day. He's a fisherman for his job, so he catches enough fish. He goes to the market, he sells it, and he catches enough for him and his family to eat. He goes to his family, he hangs out, gets to spend time with them, and they survive, they live, and he gets to spend time with his family. He goes to the beach, he fishes, and he loves fishing. And then this guy comes, this like capitalist American guy, which I want to predicate this by saying I'm not like anti-capitalism. I love capitalism, but it's just an insight into the games of life. He's like, hey, I have an idea for you. Have you ever thought about hiring somebody else to catch fish with you, and then you could sell more fish to the market, and you can make more money? And then when you make more money, you could buy a boat, and then you could go even further out, and you could fish for longer, and then you could bring more fish back and sell more fish to the market, and then you could have all these scales of things, and this blah blah blah. Long story short, the banker, the guy ends up saying, and then you could spend time fishing and hanging with your family. And the Mexican fisherman's like, I already do that.
Yeah,
So it's just it's
that's
what
great.
games are you playing?
Exactly.
I love that. You talk about surfing a lot. Has that been a pretty instrumental part of your life? Obviously, growing up in the beach.
Yeah, I mean, I started baseball as the first love, and then yeah, I started surfing when I was 13. I was like, holy shit, this is great. It's very addicting. Did you catch a wave in Hermosa when you went?
And I know,
Did you
yeah,
did you get the feeling?
I know exactly the feeling, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely addicting.
Yeah, exactly. It's very addicting. And it's great because it's like it's mastery too. Like I'm, going harder every day, just like getting a little better every day. So there's a lot of that into it as well. And then you can go to the health sides. Like every morning I see get in that morning light. I'm grounded, got community, I'm exercising. Boom, boom, boom. It's like it's it. It's what I want.
It's
And
it
it takes me
covers
all across the world as well. So
Have you been to a lot of different places? Like you've been
Oh yeah,
surfed all over?
yeah, yeah.
Any
A
favorite
lot of
spots?
well, I mean, Indo's amazing. I haven't spent enough time there. I've been twice, but I mean, Indo's just the dream. But so
I
is
heard
like
the waves down
Mexico,
there are
Puerto
pretty epic.
Escondido, and yeah, scary.
Why scary?
Well, because there's reef, and you always got with surfing with anything in life too. Like if you're not leveling up, you're gonna get bored and not gonna be moving forward. So you kind of always got to be on the edge, like what Jordan Peterson says, like border of chaos and order. That's where like meetings found, right?
Hmm.
So that with everything, that with all the responsibilities you take on, and that with all the yeah, like your hobbies too. You got to keep pushing, and that's what makes it like more fun. Like the best days are when I'm the most scared, which sucks because like I'm on the beach, like damn it, I don't really want to go surf that, but I got to. Then I come back with the biggest smile on my face, like
Yeah,
just went to war. Uh, yeah,
it's epic, dude. And I'll say this: I've literally surfed one time in my life, and it was in Costa Rica last summer.
nice.
And I remember we didn't even take lessons. We rented a board at the little shop right like on the entrance to the beach to Hermosa Beach, and got out there. And I mean, I was catching like the very very small ones that are like almost to the shore, and just getting on my board. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then I remember catching like two or three of the actual legitimate waves, and I'm like, okay, I
Let's
can
go.
totally see why people the endless summer vibe is totally understandable now.
Oh, I still remember my first wave, man.
Do you
It's
really?
just, oh yeah, I just
That's
remember the
sweet.
feeling like it's like a 2 foot, like not even 2 foot wave, like 1 foot wave, and just going down the line, like, oh well, got to do this for the rest of my life. Damn it, here we go.
What's the biggest wave you've caught? If you had to
Oh, I
guess.
don't know, man, like 12 feet, but like I'm not that gnarly, but
I
I'm
mean,
getting
that's
kind
pretty
of
epic.
gnarly. Yeah,
That 12 feet,
just
dude.
yeah. And then when you're inside a tube, there's just nothing that compares that. Like maybe hitting a home run or something is pretty comparable to it, but being in a tube is the best feeling ever. And when I got to Costa Rica, um, I still haven't completed this mission, so I got to do this. I want to get barreled and hit a home run on the same day. So in Santa Teresa, where I'm in between Santa Teresa and Dominicana when I'm down here in Costa Rica, and there's a bunch of Nicaraguans down there, and they have a league. So I ended up when I got down there, I had to go back home for something. I brought a bunch of gear back and joined the
Nice.
team, and I was playing ball with all the Nicaraguans in just like jungle backyard shitty fields. It was so fun, dude. All
That's
the whole
epic.
community would come every Sunday. You'd play a game, and I should have filmed more of this, but dude, we ended up going to the playoffs, and I was there for the first for the like the championship. I was on Los Almendros, the almonds is the name of their street. We had jerseys and everything. It was legit,
Absolutely
and
epic.
yeah, so I helped get them there. And then I had to go and move fridges or something. And then, I was like, boys, if we get to game 7, I will be back no matter what. So they got to game 6. We were down 3-2. And I came back, won game 6 and won game 7 in extras. It was,
Let's
you
go.
could not have scripted it any better, dude. It was a movie. And I was
Dude,
the
that's
only
absolutely
gringo in the
epic.
league. It was so fun.
Dude, that's freaking awesome, bro. So they play a legit World Series, like 7 game series.
Oh, yeah, it's legit. It's great.
Pretty good
9
crowds
innings.
too.
Oh, great crowds. All Nicaraguans.
Dude, that's
In the
awesome.
middle
That
of the
sounds.
jungle.
There's a
Shitty
field
field.
out
So
in
fun.
Santa Teresa, isn't there? Like right off the road. It might not be a
Yeah, the
baseball
soccer
field,
field. No, but they make it a baseball field too.
dude. Because so this is interesting. So I have a like I always joke like 95% of my friends from college are in the pros or in the minors, just because I guess I was the worst of all my friends. But a couple of my good buddies in the off season, they like traveling, and one of them particularly like surfing. And I went to Santa Teresa. I'm like, dude, what we should do is we should come down here for like a month, one off season, and I'll literally catch your bullpens. I'll stand in as a hitter. I know the exact field we can use, and
Yeah,
it's that one in Santa Teresa. I think that'd be pretty epic to spend some time down there.
dude. And then you got to go support on the Sundays.
Dude,
Bring in
maybe even like
gear.
come in and play, or I don't know if they do that, but like yeah, that'd be freaking epic.
If you're there for a
Um,
month, maybe.
yeah, just part. How many games did they play in the season?
I don't know. It was legit. It was like a couple months season. Oh my god,
That's
it's
awesome.
hot too. Oh.
That's all. Do they play in
Brutal.
rainy? I would assume they play in dry season.
Oh,
If I had
they,
to
they
guess.
they play both, dude. They try like I mean they'll get rained out most afternoons in the rainy season. It'll rain, but you can get a game in the morning.
That's epic, dude. Wait, does it rain usually in the afternoon?
In the rainy season, yeah, it'll probably rain in the afternoon most of the
Interesting.
days.
That's
But
epic, dude. I'm fascinated by surfing in general because in the last year I snowboarded and surfed for the first time. So I don't know if you
Nice.
snowboard too,
Yeah.
but just the idea of riding a board at a relatively fast speed is extremely exhilarating, as you know. I also think it's interesting that so many men that I respect and like look up to, at least like figures. I don't know them personally, like Jocko Willink, Hickson Gracie, Laird Hamilton's a massive role model of mine in terms of health. All these
Freak.
guys,
Yeah.
dude, he's epic. He's literally a he's like a guiding light in a lot of ways from like a lifestyle perspective for me and my brother. But nonetheless, they all surf. And like Hickson Gracie, I don't know if you're familiar with Hickson Gracie.
No, I don't know.
So
Is that jujitsu guys?
yeah,
No.
the Gracies were the ones who
Yeah.
basically created Brazilian Jiu Jitsu,
Yeah.
and they lived in Rio, so they would literally just train Jiu Jitsu and then go surf like all the time, and a lot of
The
them
best.
contribute the surfing to like massive personal development. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious, as somebody who
Oh
surfs
my
all the
god,
time
dude.
yourself, like how would you relate to that? Would you say there's like a massive has it impacted you in that same way?
100%, man. Like as I said, you know, you look at a wave and you're scared, and then you come back. It's like and you survive, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm invincible. Well, not invincible, but it's just testing yourself, right? You know, and if you know you can do these things that you didn't think were possible, you can apply that to all other aspects of your life. So,
When you say scared, like what just because the size of it, or like what would scare
oh
you about
yeah,
it?
dude, the size and how like heavy the waves are, and just here in Dominical, the waves are heavier than Santa Teresa, and that's why I kind of like it more.
When you
Um,
say heavier, I'm a novice in this. What do you just like? They literally
just
fall heavier.
strong, and they break so fast, and they're so open, they're hollow, so you can go inside of them and get barreled, and that's the ultimate experience, like I was saying, surfing. So constantly pushing and finding the edge there. It just and yeah, it's totally relatable to other things in life, like I was saying, just knowing that you can achieve and keep pushing further definitely has to equate to other successes in my life personally. And I mean, you could go on the other side and just become a surf bum. I've tried that though. I was a surf bum. Like, I mean, I basically moved down here as a surf bum before I started to work for Saladino, but also because I had that vision of something happening. But surf trips for too long, like you get bored, you want to contribute, you want to work. I was out in Indo once on this extended trip, just not knowing what to do. I did a huge Mountain Dew commercial. I was like, holy shit, money. Let's go spend it.
Nice.
Let's go adventure. Um, and I was in Indo like, oh my God, I want to work. And
Wow.
there's definitely a lesson in there too.
I was about to say that's a powerful insight because you think it's back to that same maybe like the other side of that. How would you live like a billionaire? Because you would assume, okay, if I have $1 billion, I probably wouldn't want to work that much, but you there is that
No.
pull. You know, there's that pull of continued growth in that way as well.
Yeah, there's not working, that's bullshit. That's never gonna happen. It's like a man, especially like you're always going to want to work and give back and grow. I happen to know a couple billionaires now, and they work like
Yeah.
not necessarily just to increase the size of their stack or whatever, just eventually to give back. And both of them that know like their whole life is about giving back. At least that's how they frame it. And um, yeah, so working's never going to end. So choosing what to work on is that's what's important.
Totally. I love that frame because I also think there's this. I mean, I'm a young dude, as are you. There's this frame of like, okay, well, I'm going to work for till I'm 60 or whatever the retirement age, 65, and then I'm going to spend the last little bit of my life not working. And I think I personally know a couple people who have retired and become like it's I think they like the purpose and the mission is lost because there's nothing to work for. Like if you don't have that thing to work for, then like what are you doing? And another
Yeah,
thing that reminds me of is John D. Rockefeller. I've been like deep on a rabbit hole with John D. Rockefeller.
nice.
Um, and he was like the epitome of that. He basically believed it was his God given mission to make as much money as he possibly could, so he could give as much money as he possibly could away. Like he literally thought that he was put on the earth to be the wealthiest man and then give as much as he could away. And he said something along the lines. Somebody was talking about retiring. He's like, retiring from what? Life? You can't retire from life. It's
No,
it's what we do.
exactly. Yeah,
That's epic.
yeah. And I mean, so Primal this shirt, like that's one of the things I'm doing for work. The guy sold a company to Microsoft, and you know, he's fine now, right?
Yeah.
And then, but he was fucking bored. You're gonna get bored. And actually, that's a quote that stuck in my head that I like to frame things around as well. Like, I'm probably gonna butcher it. So I got it. The only worthy mode of action. No, avoiding boredom is the only worthy mode of action.
Hmm.
So, I mean, because if you're, if it's not worthy if somebody else is telling you what to do, so you're not bored. But like, if you're just, so if you're retired and then you choose to work on something, like that's it.
There's freedom in that for sure.
Yeah.
What's Primal? You said you're working with them.
So here we go. So Primal is decentralized social media. You can look at it like that. Um, it's so with Bitcoin, you have your private keys to your money, right?
Hmm.
With Primal, you have your private keys to your speech. So it's built on this decentralized protocol called Noster. So nobody can shut it off, nobody can shut you up, and you actually own your content. Right now, when you post to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you're renting your identity to these corporations. You have to ask permission to post. With Nostr, you could spin up an account and post, and nobody can shut you up. So it's powerful. It's free speech baked into the protocol instead of like when Elon says we have free speech, or on Rumble, it's like we're not going to censor you. Trust me, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
With Nostr, the thing that's underneath that we built on Primal on top of, nobody can shut it down.
So is it an app? Like I could have it on my phone?
Yeah, Primal's an app. That's what we're working on, and it looks like Twitter for now. And
Is it available right now? Because if so, I'll
yeah,
download it.
download
Primal
Primal.
Noster.
Yeah, there it is. And then you can set up your account. You can find people to follow. Find me, Paul in the Jungle. And one other thing that's really fun about it is that instead of just likes, you can send Bitcoin like directly to the creators.
Nice.
So that's called a zap. So instead of a like, you can press the lightning bolt and send a zap, and you directly pay the creators. So the big vision of this is that when when millions of people are on there, you can actually maybe have a social media network that's not just flustered, with ads everywhere.
Hmm.
Because when a product is free, that means you are the product. So like, um, and it enables maybe a more value to value economy on social media.
How does Primal profit off that? Like how do they make money?
So we have a couple ways that we'll eventually make money. We don't make money yet. The network is still small; it's growing, but we may do a premium subscription thing, which unlocks some stuff for you. We may charge. We have a wallet built into the app, so we may charge a small micro percent of the transactions. Might come back to Primal. We might have a thing where we go choose to support Primal with this percent that goes to the team to keep it going. So there's a lot of different ways that we could monetize.
Yeah, as opposed to like you said, the traditional model of social media, we are like very much so the product.
Yep.
Like we are. It's free for a reason because our attention and our eyeballs are being monetized by them.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. That's super interesting,
Yeah.
and that just brought something to mind. How did you go from a dude who is delivering fridges to colleges, driving to Mexico with baseball gear, to working for a company like that?
Yeah, that's what's funny, right?
Yeah, yeah, there is a comedic element to that. I mean,
It's absolutely hilarious. And like, I am not the smartest guy in the room, that's for damn sure. But with the whole decentralization movement and the Bitcoin thing, like, I really do just buy the Kool Aid and really think it's going to make the world a better place because the money's broken. The way we do social media is broken. Um, Jack Dorsey, the guy who founded Twitter, so he's really into Nostr now, and he's been funding a lot of Nostr development. He's doing that because he realized the original sin of Twitter was making it a company as instead of just this protocol. So once it's a
mm,
company, you take on like board members, and you take on shareholders, and then you got to make the shareholders happy. So like, how do you make money? And then the incentives get all screwed up. And so he's been looking for something like Nostr to make a truly like decentralized ecosystem where apps like Primal can go compete for users and eventually monetize. So, but how did I do that? I don't freaking know, man. But it was, like I was saying, I mean, I got this graduate degree in organizational psychology, which is how to make work not suck. But when you're in school, like you don't get any experience in the workplace. So It's funny now because just so many hours of podcasts and books, like thousands of hours, right? So I kind of did my work, and I never knew it was actually going to come to be, but it now is finally existing, like where I am now.
Yeah, you chose your
Where,
curriculum like you were talking about.
yeah, and it's finally paid off now.
So a little bit more on Nostr because I've seen you post about that. I full candor don't know much about it.
Hmm.
So it sounds like Nostr is that's that's the platform that you said Primal is built on. So other apps can also be built on it as well.
Yep, and then you can take your password, your private key, and log into all these other apps that are built on top of it. So we want there's going to eventually be this entire ecosystem on the internet of, that you can, you know, partake in. And we like to phrase it as the everything app of freedom. So like in China, there's WeChat, right? And they can control everything you do. They could shut you off. With this, they can't. So
Epic. Yeah,
there's a lot
I've
of
actually
power in that.
I went to China once when I was in high school, and it's actually it's pretty wild to think about because I guess theoretically, social media in America could become the same, and maybe there's even signs of it
100% signs
trending
of
in
it.
that direction. Yeah, I literally, so I was in Hong Kong, and then I went to Zhuhai, which is on the mainland. When I was in Hong Kong, I could go on like whatever because it's technically its own territory or however they phrase it. And then I went to the mainland, and I couldn't go on YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, literally nothing. And I guess that is, now that I say that out loud, I guess we're kind of acting in good faith that the government or that the powers that be in America won't ever do that. But perhaps that's not really, there's not a lot of strength in that hope.
They could, but I mean, we've obviously. So what's ironic is Bitcoin emerged in 2008, 2009, right after that financial crisis. Nostr emerged. It was written in 2020, like right near the pandemic, and then we saw the misinformation and all that. So it's tough when there's people in control and they have algorithms, and then they can kick Trump off of a platform. Like it'd be better for this just to not even be possible, and hopefully the information can flow more freely and get closer to whatever the truth is. But when it can be manipulated, what are we going to do?
Yeah,
Trust the
that
experts, and I don't know.
that's interesting. I've never thought about it that way. It's like the information can flow more freely and get closer to the truth because, as you said, when there's external forces with their own biases and own interests at heart, like for example, the shareholders of Facebook or Meta or whatever it is, that without a doubt, whether consciously or not, like there are uh, biases and there are actions that are taken maybe subconsciously that protect their interests and their biases more than, like you said, the truth. That's super fascinating. I've never thought about that
100%.
before.
And it just puts these companies in these positions. Like, I mean, Jack had to go testify in front of the Supreme Court. He's just a dude. Like, he just created this thing, and now the next thing you know, he's got all this power. And I don't even like. I don't think Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Elon. I don't necessarily think they're evil or anything. It's just not the way, not the future I want to see. Where the corporations have all the power. It's the same with the money. It's flawed at the core. Where I don't even think, like, inflation and all that. Like, it's just them trying to save their ass and like keep this bubble from popping and exploding and destroying everybody. And it just these incremental like suffering that we have to do with the inflation and everything going to shit. But it's better than it popping. And so it's just short term thinking instead of like long term thinking.
How did you get, like, what was your impetus for like the Bitcoin journey? Like
Oh, I want
how
to get
did you,
fucking rich.
is that, was that actually
The
it?
meme, of course. And
That's
I
epic.
used to trade all the other altcoins. I call them shit coins.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I was on the couch sick, like I was telling you. That's when I started down the health and uh, crypto Bitcoin rabbit hole. Um, so I want to get rich. I believe like, okay, Bitcoin can go to 1 million. All right, so let's go buy some of that and get rich somehow and trade my way to freedom. Um, but it's a whole arc, a whole journey of learning. And now I'm just nothing but Bitcoin. There's a huge differentiation between Bitcoin and crypto. And I want you to understand that. And yeah, Bitcoin is the only thing that is really truly achieved decentralization and has the actual opportunity to be a sovereign like monetary system. Whereas all this crypto stuff is just there's always a central point of failure that can be attacked. You can change the code, and it's basically like the monetary system now. So yeah, there's a huge difference between Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, that's actually something I would like to get into. I had Jimmy Song on the podcast relatively
Oh, what a
recently. Maybe,
legend!
dude,
Great.
he was awesome. I learned so
Yeah.
much from him. Seriously, that was
How
a
many kids does that
fascinating
guy have?
conversation. A lot, dude. He's doing the thing, man.
He's
He's
doing
a
the thing.
G. Wearing a
Yeah.
cowboy hat, having kids,
Yeah.
writing books.
Yeah.
He's a G. But I learned a lot from him about just like what fiat currency and fiat like a fiat system is, but also something I never really thought about because I think of crypto. I think a lot of people that are skeptical or not really into crypto, or because Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, but like you said, there is this differentiation, and I think that actually gets like melded together by people that are not initiated at all. They think, oh, crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're all the same, but as you're saying, they're not. If you could speak a little bit more on like why they're like why is Ethereum worse than or like not as effective as Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, because you can change the code. It went from proof of work, which actually grounds it to nature. Like with Bitcoin, there's this proof of work system where you actually take actual energy to make Bitcoin. You get it from the earth and you make Bitcoin. Now it's switched to something called proof of stake, which is basically just a group of people that can change the code.
So
So
they switched that like in real time. It
yeah,
started
they
as one
switched
and
that.
now it's the other.
Just like kind of I mean, this is just a very high level way to look at it. Like Jimmy's a better person to talk to about this, but this is how I see it. And now the same with the monetary system now. There's just a few people in charge of the printer and how you when to print money. So at a high level, that's it. Bitcoin is rooted in nature, whereas everything else is not.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, like an Ethereum is essentially just like its own U.S. dollar monetary system, like
Mm,
separately.
yeah, I mean it is just a separate ecosystem. There's a bunch of apps built on top of Ethereum, but a lot of again back to the trading thing. Like a lot of people get into crypto to make money, but what is money? So when I buy Bitcoin, it's like I don't buy Bitcoin to sell it for dollars in the future. That's stupid. I buy it to save my time and save my work and conserve it in the best money possible. Whereas a lot of people will get into crypto to make dollars, and that's not the ethos, I don't think. And the reason I'm so bullish on Bitcoin and why I'm down here and I spend Bitcoin, I bought this orange juice with Bitcoin. I was just at the market, bought a bunch of stuff with Bitcoin, is because I really think it changes humans at a soul level. This is kind of out
Yeah.
there, but and it comes down to one simple thing, which is I mentioned earlier, is long-term thinking. So I'm so outlandishly bullish on Bitcoin that like I'm able to I have that billionaire thought like, okay, if I'm going to be worth that one day, like how would I act and do everything today? But at a smaller level, like giving sats little pieces of Bitcoin to people at the farmers market, they have something that is so valuable, so scarce that they don't want to spend it. So they want to start thinking long term, and you start saving money. And so with regular fiat currencies, especially in like, I mean, we're different here in the in America with the dollar that's been the world reserve currency, but people are not that lucky all around the world. They're subject to more inflation and monetary debasement. So what happens if they actually have some digital gold that they could save for a rainy day and actually start thinking long term instead of just buying the Coke, the beer, the seed oils, chips, and shit that are making them unhealthy? What if they could start thinking long term, saving money, and knowing that it's secure? So that's what keeps me, bullish and moving on this whole Bitcoin thing.
Yeah, that's something I also haven't thought about before. The implications for a country like Costa Rica or other countries that don't have the likelihood of the U.S. dollar exploding in real time. It's a lot lower. I mean, albeit it's still possible. It's a lot lower than the Costa Rican currency or whatever currency is in Nicaragua or El Salvador is a good example, I guess, as well, because that it's so much more. It's not backed by the whole world essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's interesting. And I saw you post something recently where there's like hundreds of places in Costa Rica that accept Bitcoin now.
Yeah, man.
Epic.
So Bitcoin Jungle, I'm affiliate. I think I'm going to go present about them in Nashville at the Bitcoin conference. So I'm stoked for that.
Very
We
cool.
also have a documentary coming out, kind of telling the whole story. But yeah, man, it's just all grassroots adoption. Just one guy spun up an app one day, and we started at the farmers market. So you can go now spend your Bitcoin at the farmers market. Everybody there, literally everybody in Dominical accepts. Oh wait, no, there was one guy today, but I'd say over 90% of the vendors will accept Bitcoin. And in the beginning, It was literally this one guy and kind of a group of people, but one guy would go around with cash and cash them out in case they didn't want the exposure to the Bitcoin. But over time, it started to grow like, oh, my friend accepts Bitcoin, so maybe I should just accept it. Why not? And now there's actually an off ramp so they can sell within the app if they don't want to hold it and be exposed to Bitcoin because it is volatile. I mean, the whole global south doesn't necessarily even want Bitcoin right now because it is so volatile. They want dollars, is the truth, and I understand that. But yeah, so it started organically, and now it's spread everywhere because of crazy people like me who want to come spend Bitcoin and fund this circular economy and eventually make. I mean, the end goal of Bitcoin is for it to be a massive circular economy and not need any dollars.
What do you think the biggest, I don't know, uh, like, what do you think the biggest friction point for Bitcoin being adopted by more people? Is it just like lack of knowledge or lack of awareness, or like why do you think more people? Because I'm on the train. I haven't like I have Bitcoin, and am very much so bullish on it. I've had conversations with several people like yourself, Jimmy, and people here in Austin that have really like orange pilled me to a pretty high degree. But
Right.
what's stopping more people from doing that, from buying the mission?
So, I mean, a lot. It's just because of all the bullshit. FTX getting rugged,
Yeah,
exploding, and it just comes down to this thing: not your keys, not your coins. Which is, I mean, if you don't own your private keys yourself, then you're exposed to blow up and third parties, which trusted third parties are a security loophole, is the saying down here. But also in like places like Costa Rica, it's now that we have this fiat off ramp where they can sell right away for like no fee. We don't make any money at Bitcoin Jungle, but um, having the ability to switch between Bitcoin and fiat in an easy way is necessary. And this is a unique place where we can do that. It's even like simpler to go from Bitcoin to fiat than it is in El Salvador here in Costa Rica with what they built here. So that's pretty rad. I think
yeah,
that's
that's
kind of
very
what's
cool.
what's keeping it from going ballistic. I mean, in the global south, and just education, of course, and really person to person, like me talking to a vendor, spending time going back and continually spending Bitcoin. That's how this all goes. It's just like actually meeting people in real life instead of just watching YouTube videos and actually playing with it, sending Bitcoin, learning how to take it off the exchange into your own self custody, all that stuff, and it all happens just at the human level. So yeah, the grassroots, the boots on the ground is really what's needed. But I
Yeah,
mean,
that
it's insane. Like Trump is probably going to come to Nashville. Kennedy's going to be there. It's like a number one issue in this election now. It's coming, man.
at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville,
Yeah, he might come.
dude. It's looking like that's in July, right?
Yeah,
It's looking like I'll be there too, so that's exciting.
let's
That'll be
go.
cool. Yeah.
You going with
The
Daylight?
No, I'll be going with like Brett and Harry. I
The
don't
Eat
know if you've
Mafia
met.
guys?
Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
haven't met them yet.
yeah. They would they have a they have like a lot of connections in Nashville. It's I mean Nashville and Austin are very similar in a lot of ways. I
Yeah.
think as it relates to just community around Bitcoin and alternative health. Like I mentioned, I think there's so many. For some reason, I think so much crossover between those two things, and maybe we could dive into that too. Because I mean, from my perspective, I just think it's people's inherent desire, or certain people's inherent desire for sovereignty. I think you have to have health to be truly sovereign. Like, so say you're fully sovereign from a financial standpoint, and you have all the Bitcoin in the world, but your body is failing you. Then what good does that Bitcoin have?
Health is always first before family, before anything. It's your health. It's the most important thing. And it's crazy to see all the Bitcoiners, like, so many of them are eat a highly carnivorous diet as well.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but the Bitcoin rabbit hole takes you everywhere. You should read his book called Fiat Food. Like, it's insane just what this shitty money has. I think it's the root cause of all the destruction of humanity, even just having this horrible money that, just we can't like think long term. Like I think it always comes back to that.
Yeah, that's
So might as well just blow up our food now so I can make a quick profit and like spray it with a bunch of shit. You know,
great
I
point.
think it's all
Yeah,
related.
dude, that's a great point because it's like, okay, because you're competing against other people who are not playing long term games either. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if I mean we have our self interests, if I'm sitting here and I'm a magnanimous and altruistic guy, and I want to live and operate my business in an ethical way, but every one of my competitors is thinking short term and spraying glyphosate or putting some preservative in it that they know is dangerous for human life, but
Yeah.
it saves them money. But every one of my competitors is doing that. I'm going to be compelled to do that too, because then I have no business if I don't. So that's a really
Yeah.
interesting point too, because there is this lack of like long term thinking because of fiat currency. And I will say Jimmy did a really good job of explaining that to me, how that all works. Um, and in terms of there's like, I mean, I work in the health space, so I see all these graphs and all these infographics about like different health statistics over time from like a lot of the time it's like 1970 to now.
Yeah. What
And
the F happened in 1971? Have you looked at that website?
I have not, but Jimmy told me to. I'm gonna write that
Yeah,
down
yeah,
because I haven't done
dude.
it.
Seed oil explosion. WTF happened in 1971 is the website, and that's like when we fully got off the gold standard, and things just went sideways.
Yeah, that's more or less what I was going to reiterate is like you look at healthcare expense per person, total and per person, administrators compared to doctor growth, and like there's that graph where it's like healthcare administrators have increased like 3,000 plus percent, while
I didn't
doctors
know
have
that.
only increased like 250%.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane. You have heart disease, obesity, cancer, like literally everything from 1970 on just goes skyrockets, and it's like, well, what the fuck happened in 1971 or
I'll
whatever year
tell
it
you.
was.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
1971.
that's the year that we got off that Nixon got off the gold standard, correct?
Fully, yeah. I mean, it was already kind of cloudy before, but then it fully got off the gold standard then.
It's so interesting to think about because it's something like, dude, before, I mean, maybe you were the same way. Before I got even exposed to it a little bit, I thought it was literally ridiculous. I'm like, what do you mean? The US dollar is the US dollar. I can go to the store and I can buy it. I can buy whatever I want. They have this stuff on the computer. Like, what even is Bitcoin? It's like this fake whatever. And then you get into it, you're like, oh, wait, the actual fake thing is the dollar because it can just be manipulated at the snap of a finger.
That's
With
exactly it.
it's so backwards. One thing that Breedlove said on that podcast with Billy that stuck with me forever. He something to the effect of like the Federal Reserve is not federal and it has no reserves.
Yep. Dude, go just listen to a few chapters of The Creature from Jekyll Island, and that's how they created the Federal Reserve. And I was listening to that on a plane not too long ago. I was just like, holy shit. Like, this all makes no sense.
Yeah.
And more people are actually waking up to that. And it's not, I don't think it's out of, I think humans are good people. And it's just literally what they had to do to keep the system afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's going to be this gradual evolution or it's just going to be a revolution where it pops one day, but I know which world I want to live in. And a lot of people that are exposed to Bitcoin, like, I mean, I'm an extreme, man. I'm 100% Bitcoin. I literally have sometimes account reach $0 in my bank account. I'm like, oh, whoops, oh, well. Like I'm extreme and I spend Bitcoin because another quote that like is stuck in my head is from Taleb, something like, if you have an opinion, but you don't live by that opinion, your opinion's not valid. So that's just stuck with me. So now I gotta live like my truth, I guess. And that truth is that I think Bitcoin's the better money. So if I'm not spending it and actually using it on day to day, which I do in Costa Rica, I feel like a fraud. So, yeah,
As you should. I mean, that's a pretty powerful quote
yeah,
because as you should. Like if you're espousing something but not living by it, then what you're espousing is literally fake to
yeah,
it's fake, which is obviously it's a lie. Which living a lie is not a very good way to live.
yeah.
It's to me as well. Like for you, and I guess I'm getting there, but for you, it's like it's more than just about the money, I guess, as it relates to Bitcoin. It's like what Bitcoin represents, or like all the things that Bitcoin being adopted would represent for the world. Is that safe to say?
Oh, 100%, man. I'm sold. It's just going to fix everything. It's going to, to fund war now, you just touch the money print button and then you go send bombs everywhere. And that's impossible on a Bitcoin standard. Nobody can create the money. So, like, so much gets fixed. And I think it comes down to, at the soul level, people being fixed, though. So, yeah, I
Meaning
buy it.
fixed by Bitcoin, or like a lack of
Hmm.
fiat currency, regard, or I mean, because Bitcoin is the solution.
That's what I
But
think. Yeah. Fixes like people like on a good sound monetary standard.
how do you think it fixes people? Just like their intentions or like their incentives?
Yeah, I think it fixes like incentives, and you're actually going to have to work hard to earn money on a Bitcoin standard. Like nobody's just going to give you free money. But like I said a few times, it just fixes the way you think, because you're not with cash now. It's like, oh, you know your cash is going to depreciate. With Bitcoin, it's like, oh no, it's going to appreciate. So how am I going to spend this money now? You'd be more intentional with how you spend it, how you spend your time, who you spend it with.
Yeah, I saw a tweet one time. It said fiat currency is the reason you're in a rush,
Yeah,
which
I
I
was.
never thought about that before, but maybe it's true.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, for me, yeah. I
Yeah,
was listening. I was hanging out with these people last night, and they were just talking about like, yeah, dude, I've been doubling my money, doing this, doing that, doing that. It's just like, but they have no peace because they don't know where to put it, because everything is just to go make more dollars. But then what are the dollars doing? They're just sitting there eroding, and that's why houses are so expensive now, because like people are, houses aren't supposed to be just the store of value. Like on a Bitcoin standard, the price of the house is actually going down. But now it's just like the only place people feel comfortable spending their money and keeping it, and that's why there's just empty houses everywhere. People just storing their wealth in the real estate. And of course, I mean, real estate is always going to be valuable, but should it be money? No.
there's also a lesson there because the reason real estate's value is because it's scarce. Like
Yeah.
that's one of the reason that people are so heavily invested into real estate is because they're not making any more. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you dive into Bitcoin even a little bit, there's a limit to the amount of Bitcoin that can be mined. So it's like that same scarcity
Oh yeah.
factor.
It's just
I
a
can't.
better story of money. 21 million, not going to be anymore. Nobody can control it. And I think slowly and surely, like people are getting plucked out. Like, oh, here we go. And then one day it'll be the majority. So
Yeah, it'll reach that critical mass where it becomes like not infallible, but like impossible for it to not continue going, which would be cool. I think.
yeah, I'm
Um,
ready for it. Are you?
Maybe not yet. I'm getting there. Jimmy said something about like Bitcoin being. It was like 3Ds. I think it was like the first thing that was ever decentralized, digital, and scarce. Maybe it was just 2Ds and an S. Maybe it was
Okay.
decentralized, digital, and scarce. Have you ever heard that, or am I making that up?
Yeah, I think I've heard the only two things in life are that are scarce are your time and Bitcoin. So sit with that for a minute and think about that. So maybe you should, be careful with how you spend your time and how you spend your Bitcoin. So
Very interesting. The sort of on I guess on a similar note, but it has to do with your crazy story from wherever you were starting
that's
from
amore.
to Hola. um, going from California to Mexico, doing all that to Costa Rica. You said you worked with Saladino, which
Mhm.
is, I mean, I think I first came across his stuff maybe in like 2022 or something like that. But I mean, since then he's like skyrocketed, obviously. So what was that like being a part
Dude,
of
it's
that? Because I
great.
mean, he's 10x probably, maybe more than
It's
that.
Yeah, it was like a 10x when I was there. Like it's really cool. Really glad he brought me on board. I had heard of him. He was one of the first guys that was doing the carnivore diet, really popularized it, and I had followed him since before he went on Rogan, and heard he was in Santa Teresa. And I finally, like, we collided at the gym, and I ripped out my Liver King supplements before he was Liver King, and showed him. He's like, yeah, and then um, next thing you know, after surfing every day together, he's like, dude, I need help. I was like, yo, I need a job.
Perfect.
So like, that's how that relationship started, and fascinating to see it rise. And just, I mean, I knew he was special, and he lives his opinion, which is very rare. 100% to a T. There's no such thing as a cheat day in his life. Like, um, and it's great watching that grow. It's crazy to just feel all the energy coming towards him. You know, so much attention every day because we post every day, still does. And but really, it's man, I think we've made it like a legit change. I mean, I was just
100%.
in Austin. It's so great. I mean, to connect with like-minded people, but man, I really think that a lot of people are thinking differently about diet now because of a lot of his work. I mean, obviously, it's echoed by so many people, and he wasn't the first one or the only one, but um, really did make it loud, and it's great to be part of that team.
I'll reiterate that 100%. I think him and I mean Liver King for that matter, he's obviously caught more flack than Paul in the mainstream, but love him or hate him, both of those guys, they have without question changed the paradigm for millions and millions of people, myself included. Like I wasn't exposed to liver or most of the health stuff that I'm exposed to now until Liver King and like Paul started posting a lot, which I mean, that's
Same.
very cool for you to be a part of. Like, from my perspective, like to be able to see that like actual positive change take place is pretty.
Yeah, it's funny because we're just like transmitting these messages from the jungle. Yeah, here we
Yeah,
are in the jungle, just surfing every morning, and then it's just so many people would just walk up to him and be like, I follow you. Ah. It's like, God, really? This is crazy. The internet allows for, oh, it's insane. And that's another one of the problems though. Like Paul got kicked off of Instagram
did he
before.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Paul
I didn't
got
know
rugged
that.
from COVID. Yeah, so it's another reason why I'm pretty passionate about Primal is, we would filter ourselves. I mean, him obviously speaking, but we, everything would be with a slight filter for for one, the algorithm, but two, like, for the fact checkers. You can't just say your opinion based on what you think is right based on your studies you read. Like if it goes against the narrative, it's freaking ridiculous. And then you'll get shadow banned or get a strike. And then if you get strikes on YouTube and then you get rugged your 600K platform, like it's crazy. So it's like with Nostr, you can build on unruggable technology. Nobody can shut you up. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's powerful because I didn't even know he
Yeah.
got kicked off. To be honest with you,
Oh yeah, he got kicked off Instagram. He had to restart his account, and then we
and
almost
then you
got kicked off again when I was working with him. Yeah,
a little twofer. The thing
insane.
about that though is like because you could be like, oh, why is he speaking without a filter? But then if you get rugged, like we've talked about, you have no influence, and a little bit of good influence is better than no influence at all.
Yeah, and
So it's like,
people need to be able to decide for themselves and do their own research too and learn. And it's good to have all sides of the opinion. You can't just artificially shut one up because you can.
well, I guess
But even just the thought police, not the thought police, kind of the fact checker police and the whatever it is on Instagram, having that in the back of your head and filtering yourself. Like I hate that. That shouldn't exist. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, it affects every piece of content that you put out. So yeah, I don't want to live in a world like that.
yeah, that I agree completely. I don't think that's
People should,
it's the same as the money though. It's interesting, like because the money can be manipulated kind of just like that, and then the
mm-hmm,
information can be just manipulated like that by the powers that control the platform or the medium.
exactly.
So it's very interesting, this primal thing. I have it pulled up on my phone right now. I'm gonna look into that when we get off.
Awesome. Yeah, let me know
That's
when you
very
do.
interesting. Um, and now you're working for multiple brands, but like one thing that you're doing now is Daylight,
Yeah,
which is pretty epic. How's that going?
that's great. I mean, another kind of just crazy story of how it all came to be. So like, when I think of it right now, like, dude, I'm trying to build a social network, a new social media, and then build a new computer company. Like, that's freaking insane.
Yeah,
I just
on a
never occurred to
relatively new platform, like on a new like Bitcoin's not that old either, so it's like
yeah.
all this stuff is new.
Yeah, it's so new. I mean, just huge missions, and I mean, the need for daylight. I started listening to Jack Cruz, and God, you get hypnotized by that guy and his
Yeah,
passion. He doesn't give a crap about anything. Um, and I went to El Salvador for the Age of Light conference. Jack gets the whole Bitcoin thing as well with the health side, and listening to him explain it is insane. Um, but and I heard Daylight Computer was sponsoring it. And Jack, whether he's manifesting this or was talking out of his ass, said something like, "We're going to give these Daylight Computers to every kid in El Salvador." He's kind of talking out of his ass, but I think it's going to happen somehow. He's manifesting it. But that's how he first like put that in my head when I met him a while ago. I don't even remember when. Um, and then I went to the Age of Light conference, and then I ended up meeting Tristan, who I'd been like kind of aware of. I see him on Twitter. I think I followed him on Twitter. Had a couple conversations with him. And next thing you know, I'm like walking around, showing around the tablet to everybody, and instant friends with Tristan because we have very similar worldview, Bitcoin, beef, everything.
yeah,
And then next thing you know, we're in Santa Teresa together in a sauna with the founder of Daylight and a couple of significant people. And then he's like, "Dude, you got to help." I'm like, "Damn it, I think I do." Here I am working for Daylight and just trying to get that out there. And it's just, I mean, I think the screen addiction, it's just sad. You just look at everybody, you're on a subway, looking around, everybody's just like this. And I think it is actually the root cause of a lot of issues with modern health and just everything, man. So if we had, I mean, but I don't want to say that we shouldn't have a screen or a computer. Like, that's stupid. We're evolving with social media. It's a critical thing for how we do life now on the internet. But having a healthy relationship with the screen is everything. One that you could use outside, like touching grass, and you could see and you can get all your work done. That's crazy. That's huge. It's everything. And he had given me a tablet, and I had noticed like my behaviors changing in my brain without the color and everything on the little tablet. I'm not a tablet user, so I don't have like too much of the workflow on there yet, but you could feel it. I'm scrolling Twitter, scrolling Nostr way more intentionally. Instagram looks stupid in black and white. And I'm actually,
True.
going to the app and doing what I want to get done, like responding to people or whatever. And it just really, you can feel it in your brain, like how it changes. So I totally buy it and think that it's a great thing for the world and really want to see it come to be. And the response has been fantastic so far. And yeah, I buy the mission, and
Yeah, the
I'm
launch
so stoked.
the crushed, didn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
the launch seemed
crushed.
like it absolutely crushed.
Yeah, dude, it went super viral on Twitter. I think it's an idea as time has come. Like, everybody runs around thinking about blue light these days. It's like a meme, right? Nobody knows what they're doing. They're throwing around the glasses in the middle of the day, but like, I don't know. And as somebody actually fixed this problem at the hardware level,
Yeah.
and it's time. People are ready for it.
I had Anjan and Tristan on when they came to
Yeah,
Austin for their event, and it was awesome to be able to meet and spend time with Anjan. I had already had Tristan on a handful of times, so I was connected to him. But Anjan, man, the passion that he has for the project it's visceral. You can feel it. You can almost like sense it off him. He's just like very very passionate about this
yeah,
becoming a real thing because he believes in the mission. And I actually think we have a couple at the office, and it's cool to see like you said, the behavior changes. And like
yeah.
Instagram's a great example. Instagram's like not appealing when it's in black and white.
Not at all.
YouTube less appealing. Like all these things are less appealing, but then you can come out here and like you said, get in the sun, get grounded, and breathe fresh air, and be outside and be able to do your work. Like
Yeah,
even this computer I'm on right now, I'm outside, but like there's a glare, and I'm
yeah.
just kind of like making do. But it'd be nice if that wasn't the case. But I'm fascinated by it. I don't know uh, what's next for y'all in terms of like I think that y'all sold out 4 batches or something.
Yeah, we're almost sold out. The last batch ships in November, so we have like 200 left. And we're like, come on, here we go. But, being patient, we're going to baby the first 5,000 people who bought it and just keep iterating. Like, we want to
Yeah.
do a phone, laptops, computers, and just everything. And there's a whole other side to it of we want to make our own OS. We want to have more sovereign computers, like not just hooked into Apple,
Yeah.
hooked into Google. Um, so, and keep it like privacy perspective as well. That's why we're going to Bitcoin conferences and showing it there. We want to keep those that like, you know, first principles. Like if Apple was to create a healthier computer for humans, like that's daylight. So, and Anjan is just a full-on philosopher. Like I love
Oh yeah.
listening to him talk. Like go and listen to his podcast with y'all, with Jimmy, like you said, and Breed Love too. He's done
Mm-hmm.
all those, so you can listen to him rant. He's a philosopher. He's a genius,
100%.
polymath.
He's such an interesting dude and such a cool story too. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
because I had like the ADHD journey as a high schooler and stuff. So it was interesting to hear him talk about that and some of the like the relatability of a lot of, I mean, because I think a lot of people relate to that nowadays, whether or not it's screen induced, which I think a lot of it is. Like
oh yeah.
I think a lot of it's induced by the technology we're using, not like actual like genetic
I don't think it is at
predispositions.
all. I think it's because
Yeah.
you're sitting in this artificial light classroom just going crazy.
Yeah. Dude, that's
That's what
I
it
say
is.
that all the time. Like so
Yeah,
I was 13 when I got diagnosed with ADHD, and I say this all the time. I was sitting in a freaking LED lit classroom with no windows, listening to a fat teacher talk about stuff I didn't care about while looking at a screen that was like
yeah.
a blue light screen. I'm like, looking back, I'm like, oh, no wonder. Like it
Of
makes
course,
complete
it's an
sense.
evolutionary mismatch. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
kids need to be outside running around having fun, and having a tool that's just like this piece of paper with things that dance on it and things that can move. That's it. That's the solution. Like it's for the kids, really. That's what I'm most bullish on. Is like the kids, instead of the iPad kids, and then maybe throwing these in every school instead of like the iPads and everything. So it's just way less stimulating, and you can feel it when you start using it. It's just
Absolutely
so
agree.
not even interesting. It's
In
great
a good way, in the best way. And one thing
in the
Anjan
best way
said,
possible.
which was so cool, so powerful. He said, "We're taking the color out of the screen so you can get it back in your life."
Yeah,
Something to that effect. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
it sounds good. Like, oh, that's very cool. Blah blah blah. Like fairy dust. And then you use it, and you're like, oh, this actually, it's real. Like
Yeah,
you use it, and you're like, oh, outside the colors are brighter because I'm not looking at fake colors on my screen that like make all these colors look dull. It
yeah,
just makes life better.
it does. 100%.
There's
So
a
sold.
Yeah, I am too, as you can tell. The there's like this line. I don't know if you've ever been told this or have thought about it, but like I've never met you in person, but it seems like a lot of the things that you're doing, pretty much everything you're doing, are aligned, whether or not it's subconsciously or consciously. Like you're doing a lot of things that are aligned from a value perspective, and I think that's pretty rare in today's world. A lot of people will perhaps maybe do one thing in one side of their life and then do another thing and kind of compartmentalize it and be like, oh, well, I work for this company who does this, but I actually believe this, etc.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it takes the ability to say no and be freaking homeless, man. I was like homeless. Um, Something Tim Ferriss said was like this action of fear setting instead of goal setting. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I kind of lived it. Like, I went and tried in LA. I was like, I'm gonna go just sleep in my truck. Like, what happens if I do really strike out? Oh, look, I'm alive. I have friends that take care of me. Like, it's great. Um, and what happens if I go to Costa Rica and nothing happens and I just like so I mean having the balls to say no as well and I just kind of lingering around and just trusting in that outside vision that of what you want to come to be and not taking something out of fear. That's everything, but it takes balls and you got to hold out for it too.
when you say saying no, what do you saying no to what?
Saying no to like, should I just go work at a coffee shop? Like maybe I don't know. Like just being able to say no to some opportunities that aren't aligned because you won't be able to sleep at night, and that's not good.
Yeah, that's
um,
true.
Not just taking anything that comes to you, not taking work out of fear. I mean, like a salary. Taleb, who said the three most addicting things in life are heroin, carbohydrates, and monthly salary. How's that?
It's probably true. I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean,
pretty
I work for
close.
two companies now, but I'm not going to be able to produce a freaking social network or a computer. I can't build those things, and I think those two things are the biggest things that could have impact on us. Um, so I don't know. The ability to say no is definitely was definitely critical.
Yeah, I commend you for it because, like I said, there's a lot of there's also just a lot of indoctrination that happens from like high school, middle school, high school. Then you go to college, you get indoctrinated. Then you go to college, and what do you do after college? You get a job for some company, and then you get
Yeah,
indoctrinated more, and then lo and behold, you're 28 years old, and you've been indoctrinated for 28 straight years, and you have that addicting monthly salary, and it's a pretty dang hard current to pull against.
yeah,
It's a powerful force to separate. So I'm always fascinated by people like yourself that never really were pulled into the current. And I'm not saying that I'm one of those people, but I've like never worked a corporate job. I've just never, and I'm not downing people. Like my parents literally have worked corporate jobs for their entire lives and have built a beautiful life.
yeah,
But for some reason, I never knew, or I just knew that that was not something I wanted to do. So I'm fascinated by people like yourself who took alternate routes, to say the
yeah.
least.
I held out like I got a master's degree. I was like ready to go work or whatever, but just nothing sounded fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been a north star as well too. Like a little bit of fun, like and working for Daylight and Primal has been pretty fun so far, so that's cool too. And I'm just contracted with them too, so if I don't want to work anymore, it's just like, all right, I'm out. But then I got to go survive in the wild again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I go back and forth too. Like there's a lot of people in our circle that are building their own brands, coaches, whatnot. Like you building a podcast, you're on episode like 70 something. That's incredible. You know.
Yeah.
Um, Personally, I don't know what. There's so many people that are way smarter than me. Like and there's already so many brands that exist that are doing great work. Like I still don't know, and I may one day create something of my own that doesn't exist yet. But for now, I feel like helping out these companies with these huge missions um, are really aligned.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing for me that I thought about too, with in terms of the podcast, because whether or not it's like imposter syndrome or whatnot, but the reason it's called Tyro, I don't know if you're familiar, but Tyro means novice or beginner, and it stems
Okay.
from Latin word meaning young soldier.
No, I
Have
didn't
you
know
ever
that.
heard the word Tyro? I ask everybody
No, that's
this.
cool. That's awesome.
No, but I've literally met 0 people that have ever heard the word before, which is kind of
Yeah.
funny. It means novice or beginner, stems from Latin word meaning young soldier. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I named it the Tyro experience, the experience of being a novice or beginner or a young soldier, is because I felt like I feel like I'm a novice in so many ways. Like
Yeah.
I have like I'm so curious about so many things, and I feel like uh, I'm at the beginning of a lot of the journeys in those arenas. But um, it's like a willingness to be curious. But the point I'm making is that, like, for you right now, which I think is really cool, like you're providing value for these companies that will literally change the world. Um, and perhaps that will be the basis that you need whenever the time comes that you can like that then you can build something that didn't exist, whether or not it's like a more expanded personal brand of your own or a company or technology, whatever it ends up being. But like you're the value you're providing right now is immeasurable, and it's cool to see somebody living in alignment like that, man. It really
It's
it's
also
inspiring.
it's also really cool. Like, I mean, my personal brand is what got me to these roles as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and just the connections that you make too along the way. It's just so crazy how it now works. How my personal brand is just so aligned with both of these companies that, like, of course we'll hire that guy or want that guy on our team, right? So if you haven't started creating, just start with whatever the hell you're interested in. It doesn't even matter,
100%.
and you'll attract like-minded people, and then you could be friends with that person. Like, if you're just some anon account on Instagram or Primal, like, who, like, what am I supposed to? So yeah, just creating in general. Like, I literally just hit coconuts with baseball bats and put it on the internet for some reason to entertain myself. So, like, I mean, and that attracts like-minded people. All right, great.
People who
Um,
also hit coconuts with baseball bats.
and yes, maybe nobody else, but yeah, everybody has a role in this thing. So open your mouth, And I was such a lurker in the Bitcoin space for so long too, and didn't realize that I could have any impact. And now, like, when people recognize me from shit posting on Twitter and Primal and everything, like, it's so weird, but it's rad. And it's
Yeah.
all just little pieces of the puzzle. Like, I'm not going to be the guy in the government making the laws, or I'm not going to be the coder making sure the software is great, or I'm not going to build hardware, of course, but I could play like some little role in the whole gist of things. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm sure that role is going to keep expanding.
As it should. I mean, if it stayed the
Yeah,
same, that'd be boring.
it'd be boring.
Um,
Don't like boring, except for the computer that's boring.
yeah, exactly. The thing about social media is such a powerful paradigm. I have a newsletter that I just started like a couple weeks ago, and the last week I wrote about
Nice.
social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something that I really it took a while for me to navigate that. Like, because I at first I hated social media. I like didn't have Instagram. I didn't have any of it. I was like, this sucks. It's taking away from real life. And there's this paradigm that I've that's been a really big guiding light for me. It's creation over consumption. So if I'm going to have
Yeah.
social media, I'm going to be creating, not consuming. If I'm going to have
Right.
it, if I'm not going to have it, then whatever. But if I'm going to have social media, it's for the use of social media, not being used by it. And
Definitely.
your example just now, like you're literally working with 2 incredible companies because of what you've created and what you've put into the ethos. That I can almost say with certainty that you wouldn't be working with unless you did that.
Oh,
And
exactly.
my buddy Nick Rogers says this, which I think is awesome. He said basically like your social media is your new resume in a
Oh,
way.
100%, dude. Yeah, when I didn't send a resume to either of these people, they just, like, hired me on the spot. It's great.
Yeah,
Like, it's so funny.
it's cool how that happens though. It's the beauty of social
Yeah,
media. It's a tool.
exactly. Yeah, powerful too. I couldn't imagine life without it now. So, and that's why I said, but it needs to be fixed, because you don't own anything on there. You're just renting it, and it can be censored. And yeah, I already did
Yeah.
that spiel.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's worth reiterating. It's an
Mm-hmm.
important paradigm to shift. I genuinely, like in that newsletter, I said like I genuinely believe that social media. I view it as a medium. So you think about like people were painting in caves. Like we were creating for all of antiquity. People were painting in caves. They were orally creating stories. They were hunting, which is a way of problem solving and creating strategies and all this stuff. We've been creating through different mediums for antiquity.
Mm-hmm.
The medium of our time is social media, one of the mediums. it's literally just another medium of creation. The thing about it is it's a little bit more uh, like it's a double-edged sword in the way that it's also like a lot of people's biggest detriment because they're
Oh, for
being
sure.
used by it. So it's just an interesting thing to navigate, and I can't reiterate the fact enough, as you would probably be able to reiterate as well. Like using social media intentionally and creating on it has changed my life positively, without question.
Yeah, and that's another thing with Noster and um, the algorithms right now. The North Star for every app is to keep you on the app as much time as possible. So that's why they throw the dancing girls on there. So they have the little reds for the notifications because it's like, oh look, that's like Anjan says, oh it's a berry in the wild. Like of course it's going to catch your attention. Designed to addict you. With Noster and Primal, we're gonna have like an algorithm store so you can fully know like what algorithms that um, you're gonna have for your feeds, so you can have some more control, some more sovereignty
Dude,
back to the user.
that's awesome. I think I've
Yeah,
seen Jack Dorsey talk about, maybe not specifically with Nostr, maybe it was, but I saw a video of him talking about consumers being able to have the choice. Maybe that's what
yeah,
he was talking about.
100%.
Dude, that's
I cut
awesome.
that. I cut one of those videos up. Yeah, that was from the Oslo Freedom Forum. But yeah, he's talking about that. He's saying like algorithms are actually programming us, and it's definitely the truth.
Yeah. Dude,
So,
what a cool concept, dude. I'm excited to dive into this primal stuff. That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, it'll be a little boring at first, just be a bunch of Bitcoiners, you know, harping, but it is what it is. You got to bootstrap the network somehow, but it'd be cool to get your friends on there and start owning your content and following, intentionally who you're following and start zapping sats around, paying your favorite
Yeah.
creators. You can go pay Jack right now. You just go to his profile, click the lightning bolt, and boom, you can just pay Jack.
Dude,
It's
that's pretty
hilarious.
cool. And it's like
It's really rad.
it's like a more authentic like, I guess. It's like instead of just
Exactly.
like an instant
Likes are
dopamine,
cheap.
it's like, yeah,
Yep.
exactly. It's like, okay, here's an actual investment in your creation, which is
Actual
cool.
value. Uh huh.
Dude, that's fucking awesome. That's I'm actually like really excited to look into that.
Yeah, sick.
Because the algorithm thing, that sounds pretty interesting. But um dude, this has been awesome. I appreciate your time. This has been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it was great, man. Good to connect.
Looking
Hope to meet you in real life.
Yeah, man, that's a goal of mine. I say this all the time too. I have a goal to meet everybody I do a virtual podcast with in person at some point, and so far we're pretty dang close to. We're above 50%, maybe like 75%. So hope maybe in Nashville we'll connect at the Bitcoin
Yeah,
conference.
rad. See you there.
Yeah, right on, Well, I appreciate you, Paul. Thank you so much for your time, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, see you later, Nolan.